Good morning, everybody. We are going to call the May 16, 2024 meeting of the Police Records Management System Oversight Committee to order. It's a special call meeting. And can we start, please, with a roll call?
Berlin.
Here.
Conroy.
Here.
Fieldman.
Here.
France. Bernowitz. Marnovich.
Here.
Pearson.
Here.
Hendrick.
More here.
Fritz.
Here.
Valera. Bennett. Zerwin. Here.
Okay. We're going to move on to the order of chairman's remarks. And I just want to thank all the chiefs and everybody for being here. All the people from Hexagon who are here. And really thank everyone the past few months for their engagement in this process with the goal and effort of staying together as a council, as a team moving forward. I can't stress the importance enough of trying to all be on the same page and the same system, working for everyone, because I firmly believe we're a lot safer if that is the end result. So with that, we can move on to the order of public comment. Is there any public comment?
No.
All right, no public comment. We can move on to item number 5, which is discussion, which is item 24-1507, Hexagon MFR and OCR 10 demonstration. Who wants to?
Yeah, I'll kick it off, Chair Berlin. So thank everyone for again participation in the special call. We thought it was super important to bring the members of the Oversight Committee together, as well as our command focus group together to see the new products that we're moving to from Hexagon. We have been talking about comparing basically our current products with our older products to newer solutions. And we know for sure that the new products, MFR OCR 10, have the functionality that our user base needs and provides the same functionality, if not more, and even more integrations with what they need moving forward. So we asked Hexagon to come in and do a demo for the Oversight Committee so they can take a look at it for themselves, ask any questions they have of the solution or Hexagon or the PRMS team who's also here in today's session. So I won't talk anymore. I'm going to hand it over to Tammy Heaton from Hexagon, who will facilitate the demo.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thanks everybody for being here. Excited to be back in DuPage. It's been a long-term partnership and I know many of the faces. In fact, I talk monthly to several of your chiefs as we get together and make certain that we're proactively working on issues from your users and just making certain we have those open lines of communication. So today's going to be a repeat for a few of you, but for a few of you, it will not be. And so I want to take just a moment before we get into the demonstration to get my clicker working. We'll just manually do it. All right. Oh, I went too far now. All right. That's good. I got it. Thank you. So a couple things I want to talk about before we get into the demonstration are, I think there's 2 things when you're talking to a technology vendor that are important. First is that my presenter gets it on the right slide for me. So the first is the technology itself, right? And the second, all right, that's perfect. And the second is that you're working with a trusted partner. You know, we've had a long-term partnership with the county and the agencies within the county, and I'll talk a little bit about what that's brought to you. And you can really see it when you look at the platform of applications that your agency uses. You know, within CAD and within records management, there are dozens of interfaces that your users rely on daily. And building this suite of applications did not happen overnight. In fact, I would say it's years of progress that we've made partnering with the agencies. As an example, we recently added a Fusus interface at the request of one of your chiefs. And we were able to stand that up pretty quickly with the use of an integrated application. But I want to talk a little bit about the history. As I mentioned, it's been a long time coming, right? This project started many years ago. The project started with your project manager, George Purcell, who I'm going to introduce now, to talk a little bit about the timeline, just so you start to understand the complexity at which the applications we're showing you have evolved and grown over time. So George, as the project manager, just kind of walk through a little bit of the timeline.
Sure, thank you very much. Right. Hey, everybody. So my name is George Purcell. I'm the project manager for your products that you've got that have been implementing. I've actually been with DuPage County since 2018. Is that right, Linda? Been here for a while. I love this place. You actually are my favorite customer because I've gotten to know you guys really well. So during this latest round of upgrades for your products, the first thing we started on was on your hardware. What I mean by hardware is not like the desktops that you have. We're talking about your servers, your infrastructure, your backbone, right? So we started that in 22, finished that in 23. So I'm not used to one of these things yet. And then we started on your CAD maintenance release. We were moving from not necessarily a previous version, but a more updated version that had deficiency fixes, also gave you Windows 11 capabilities, just generally got you up to speed on it. And we're actually going to be cutting that one over in June. After that, we're going to really rev up your on-call records project with Dawn at the helm. So we're going to be giving you that we're going to give you that version 10, and then we're also going to be going to MFR. Mobile field reporting also is starting in 2024. I think that's it.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, George. So, George talked about the implementation of CAD, the hardware, the backbone of the product, and what we've done to upgrade that. In just a moment, you're going to see what we call OCR 10, On-Call Records 10.0. That is our latest and greatest application within the RMS suite of applications, as well as mobile field reporting. And it comes with a lot of investment and R&D that the company has made over the last 30 years. Hexagon has been in the business for over 30 years, serving agencies similar to DuPage, but as well as an international presence. So you'll see some of the agencies that I've listed up on here, just to give you some visibility to who Hexagon is. And while we see DuPage as a strategic partner, you are one of the largest consortiums nationwide. So when you talk about data sharing and the importance of staying together, you really do represent the largest consortium that we're aware of throughout the United States. And there's a lot of value in that data sharing for you as your agencies, but also for your end users. And you'll hear us talk about the importance of that later throughout the presentation. What you see today is on-call records and mobile field reporting as it is today. So we're not showing you some demo version of it. We're showing you what is ready and what will work for your agency right out of the box. But we also recognize the need to continue to invest and evolve our products. And so I want to be very transparent about what we show you is what you're going to get. But we're going to talk for just a moment about some things that you'll be getting on the product roadmap, because we are continuing to evolve this product and add things like AI and machine learning and things like that. But it's not part of today's demonstration for a purpose. I don't want you to get confused about what you're getting with your implementation that we're starting, as well as what's coming in the future. So to have that conversation, I've asked Gina Stedman to take just a moment to share a little bit about our product roadmap. Before I fully hand it over to Gina, because we'll hand it over to James Larson, our product consultant, in just a moment, I want to take just a moment to introduce the Hexagon team that you'll hear talk throughout the day. So again, I'm Tammy Heaton, Vice President of Customer Success. I run customer support, account management, and our RSA team. Speaking of RSAs, we have Steve Burrell here. Steve is our resident RSA for DuPage County, so lives here in DuPage County and serves your agency working alongside many of this group over here to the right. George Purcell, who you've already met as your project manager. He not only implemented your project, but he's going to be the project manager leading your RMS and MFR products. So we're not bringing in new talent that doesn't understand how your agency works. TJ McGee, TJ is actually a native of Chicago, came from born and raised in Chicago, is your account manager and works very closely with Anthony McPherson, Linda, and others. And then Bob Brooks. Bob is a name and face that dates back to when this contract started. So Bob has a lot of history with DuPage, worked one-on-one in making certain that our maintenance and everything lined up with the needs of the county. And he'll continue to be an integral part as those needs change or modify. He'll continue to be part of that conversation. So Gina, I'm going to turn it over to you as product management, share a little bit about the roadmap. We're not going to go into a lot of detail here. That's by design. Then we're going to hand it over to James Larson to get right into the presentation. All that sound fair? All right, great.
Thank
Please
you.
state the-
Hello, everybody. So I'm the product manager for all things records with Hexagon. So I just wanted to briefly touch on, we're divided into strategic roadmap and a tactical roadmap. Tactical is, what module are we getting into the product? What enhancement that you guys have requested that we're getting into the product. Strategic is more looking at the big vision. So we wanted to, as Tammy pointed out, just talk about the, Hexagon's commitment to, understanding and knowing where we need to go. And certainly that is involved with the Innovation Center. Innovation Center has been around since 2012. The AI implementation or the AI, projects, if you will, have been around, and we've started those for the last 8 years or so. And that's just moving from, taking everything in and, getting information and moving to where the trends are. Our research fellowship is, we've got a lot of smart people. Like Tammy said, we're a big organization. We've got a lot of smart people, and it's pulling those people together and giving them the freedom to explore and to bring in ideas and things like that. And then actually taking those, voting on those and implementing those. So we have a research project team. Some of the things that have come out of that is the hands-free voice-driven RMS and mobile field reporting. And basically it's voice-driven. We all know that, as dispatchers, as cops and things, and, back in when I was a cop long time ago, right? We always find the easiest way to do things, right? The quickest way to do things. One of the things that we've talked about is the voice, right? And how, how that has evolved now to be able to utilize that. So think of field validations, right? So one of the big things that's NIBUS reporting and all of that other stuff, right? So being able to voice and get information and be able to respond and find errors and things like that to make that reporting better, right? And approved, right? Kind of thing. So those are the things that, we are committed to. Again, that's a very high level. We can certainly talk to you and, Smart Advisor was one of the products that was born in the AI Center, and that we're actually implementing and using today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to James, and we'll get going and see the important stuff from what you guys are getting.
Thank you.
Okay, you're going to take that off. Okay.
Gina talked about a lot of smart people working for our company. Unfortunately, you got me instead. So I've been working in this industry for a long time. I've got a lot of history with DuPage County and just the Chicagoland area. So I know a lot of what you've come from, different systems before you even used us. So I worked for a little company that got acquired by a big company, and I had some dealing with a lot of things going on there. So I know a lot of the pains you've gone through growing with technology and what is available to you. And I can honestly say that the mobile field reporting piece that I'm going to show you right now is my favorite thing that I've ever worked with in the 25 years of working with law enforcement applications. It was really designed to be that officer deputy centric type of application to make it as easy as possible. That's always been the goal, giving a well-rounded system to everybody. Hopefully it seemed like it was always, they could do a lot of things, but didn't specialize in one. So make it as good as possible you can for the records personnel, as good as you can for investigations, as good as you can for the end users out in the field. Whereas this, I feel like, is 100% evolved around what officers and deputies need out in the field. The biggest things, never duplication of any type of work that you've done. So if I've done anything in the mobile product, if I've done anything in records, it is available for me to use in this system. And in the past, with your field-based reporting, the FBR product, that was a client-based piece that you had to install, which always that part of management, different versions. Sometimes you had to touch different cars to get that installed and deal with that process. It also was kind of an island unto its own, to where the report resided in field-based reporting. So sometimes getting it approved, finding who has that on what laptop could be a pain point for people. Whereas mobile field reporting, what I'm going to show you today, is using the exact same database as on-call records, the on-call records 10 that I'm going to show you as well. So there is no separate management. It is completely a web-based, browser-based application. So there's no install for this. And the coolest part, because I used a web-based system clear back in 2000, which was really ahead of its time, but it couldn't do a lot of things. One of the biggest pieces I want to focus on today when you think about that browser-based application is it can also work in a disconnected environment. Normally, when you think of a browser or web-based, you have to have connectivity back to the servers to be able to access that. As long as when I first log in, it can authenticate who I am, then I can lose connectivity, continue to write my report. So if I zoom in down to that bottom right-hand corner, it shows that I'm connected. So even once I'm installed, as I said, it authenticated who I am. Now, when I hit that, when I'm going to go in and write my report, if I lose connectivity, it still has access to everything that I've already done while I've been logged in. And now I can write the reports. And now it's going to sit in that outbox. Just like if you wrote an email in Outlook and you don't have connectivity, it sits in your outbox until it gets connectivity, uploads it back to the system. So this works very similar to how anybody using email is going to work. That makes the learning curve a lot easier as well. And with field-based reporting, the FBR product that you're currently using, if I had to go in and write an incident, it was a little difficult for me to find that report. Where is it? How am I going to access that? Whereas what you'll see right here is when I first log into mobile field reporting, it's going to show me anything that is in progress up at the top there, and then anything new that has been assigned to. So the great part about that is I don't have to do any searching. Everything is waiting for me to go in and write that report. Now, if we have some high profile, let's say it's a homicide, and every one of us in this room had to respond to that call, as long as we're part of that call for service, every one of us is going to have a new report waiting for us to write this, whether it's a supplemental incident, whether it's an incident. If I don't have to write a report, maybe I gathered evidence, I could go in and write a supplemental report right to that. Or if I have nothing to do with it, I can delete it. It doesn't delete it for anybody else. It's just like sending out an email to a big chain. If you go and delete your email, it doesn't touch anybody else's email that got that response from that. So it manages it, waiting for everybody to use this report inside the system. Now, the big part, this is going to be built into when the time comes that you go from iCAD to on-call CAD. This is the mobile application that is going to take the place of mobile for public safety. So that MPS product that you're currently using. Right now, depending on what type of user I have, if I open up that hamburger menu in the top left-hand corner, you can set what workspace, what people have access to. So if I'm just using the mobile field reporting parts of the application, that's all I see. When you move to on-call CAD and you're going to be using this as the mobile application, now suddenly that opens up all of the mobile pieces, and they use that in tandem with that. Also, we have, if I go down to some pieces, I can change it to night mode. So anytime you're using that, if you want to switch it over to night mode, set whatever you're looking for, no problem. These are the different workspace settings. So based on security, you can change that. Field-based reporting, the piece you're using now, was really difficult. It had to be to any type of modifications. It usually had to be something that Hexagon, our company, had to go in and change for you. Whereas this was designed to be configurable out of the box. So you have the rights to go in and change access, add buttons, different fields that you can use in this. So no longer do you have to go to us to get any of those changes done. Your administrators can do that on the fly for you. All right, so now if I have a call, I'm just going to focus on these buttons one more time here so you can follow along with me. MFR Home is going to be that home page for all of my mobile field reporting pieces. So it's going to show any in-progress reports, any new reports that I need to write. MFR My Report, this is going to show if I'm working on a report, that's the section that is going to be open to show me that report. So if I'm working on a field interview, working on an incident report, that is what's going to be showing right here. And then the last piece is queries, and it's going to give you the ability to search on any of those modules that you have access to. So in the system right now, we have accident supplement, arrest, citations, field interviews, incident supplements, and juvenile contact, which is juvenile arrests. So those are the three sections. Now MFR, I'm going to come over to the mobile CAD part of this, start a call, so you can see how that data flows over into the information. So if I come up and I just do a field event, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but if I come in and I look for a burglary, maybe this is something that CAD is doing for me to begin with. If I I'm using the San Diego area as my map for this, I can put in an address that I can come in verify that address to make sure it's part of your address system. And now that creates that call for me. Now for this information, you'll see these pop-ups in the top right-hand corner that you see up there. Those are configurable by you to say, how often do I want those to show up? My system has everything popping up, which to be honest, kind of drives me crazy, but I want to show everybody that you can have full access to whatever you want, or you can maybe have only the very most important things pop up in that window. Now, if I'm going to add a person, so if you're in mobile for public safety and you're adding people, vehicles, property, I'm already searching on that. Way before I go in and write a report, I'm going to be running names, plates. I'm going to be checking all that information. So if I've done it once, the last thing that I want to do is have to open up my report and now redo all that information. So anything that I've done in mobile for public safety or MPS product, those names, they're going to be available. So if I come in and I just add a name here, for example, and those of you that have been on my presentations know I always use my good buddy James Jones here. So I'm just going to put in that name really quickly. And then on this, I haven't configured my buttons up here, so I'm just going to use a command line like a dispatcher would. I'm going to assign a case. I pick what type of case number I want. And now that went out and grabbed that case number for me. And now the last thing is I want to clear this report. I'm just going to clear my unit P25. So that report is gone, but it's now, since I created that case number, it's going to be over waiting for me on any type of new report to access type of data, any new information that you're going to be using. So when I have all of that, the types of reports that I'm going to be writing, that data flows right over and is now part of records. Now, one of the big parts about this is if I'm in records, it's now there. If it's in records, it's in mobile field reporting because it's pointed to the exact same database for all of that information. So I don't have to come over to records and do anything. It's not stuck out in FBR like what you currently have. It's available to anybody that has rights to it. So even in that draft mode, where it created that skeletal report linked to the call for service, it's available to anybody that has rights. So it's not just, I've got to wait till my sergeant approves it and then it goes into records. It is already in records. Okay, so big difference there that you're going to see with the system. So now when I come over to my options, you'll see I have two reports. So I have one back from May 2nd. I guess I've been a slacker, haven't worked on that. And then I have my report from today that is waiting for me in progress. So once again, if we were all part of that call for service, all of us would have that report waiting for us to write those reports if that's how you set it up. So now if I don't need to write anything, I can delete it, but I'm going to start this report. Now, before I start that, I just want to show you what types of reports you can add. You'll see this piece right here that is start new report. If I have rights to do this without CAD, your people can just open this up and it's going to show them all of the different report types. And you'll see that number 1 button right there. I don't want to pull that off there. I've got the number 1 of choose report type. That is a wizard. So one of the biggest things that people ask for, all of our agencies, was they wanted a wizard for the people to go in and write that report. So it takes them step by step through the process. They don't forget anything. They don't miss anything. They have that data. So step number 1, I would come in and choose which report type. Obviously, nice big buttons to use out in the car where you've only got a limited amount of real estate. So I could choose whichever report and then it would walk me through. So if I just came in and I said, well, I'm going to write a citation, you'll see how now it's to step 2. I'm going to cancel out of that, but you'll see because I'm already linked to a call for service, I'm not starting a report from scratch. It's already been created and linked to that call for service. So if I just come to that report that we just created, I hit start and now I'm on number 3. So I'm already on step 3 because it already linked that to a call for service. You'll see that my name, James Jones, is available. So if I came in and I said, this person is going to be my suspect, it pulls that data forward to where I don't have to redo any of that information, but I could say they're my victim, a witness, whatever it might be. And then I can add additional information. So if I came in and I said, I've also got a victim, That part of the wizard creates that section in my report, so your people don't forget about it. It makes them finish that before they can submit it to their supervisor. Now, the process, when I go to the next page, step number 4, how many vehicles do I have? Step number 5, what type of property and evidence? Step 6 is LEOCA for the NIBRS information, law enforcement officers killed or assaulted. In NIBRS, you have to put that in that section. And now that button turns to generate report. So now when I open this up, it's got the names and the people already pulled over. You'll see James Jones is already part of that report. So I don't have to go in and duplicate that type of information. But I want to focus on my button down here that says next. So if I zoom in on that, that button is going to change based upon where I am in my report. So if I'm hitting next, it's just walking me through step by step. When I get to the next section, it turns into next section and it will walk me through using that data. So I've got to fill out a few required fields here. I'm just going to come in and say that it was today. Obviously, out in the car, I'm probably not going to be using my mouse all that often, so I could just come in and add this data through my keypad. So if I'm just going to say 0600 to 0630, I fill out those required fields. Now up at the top, you'll see I've got my different sections: address, location, event information, domestic violence. These are part of incident details. So all of my sections are over here on the left, whereas field-based reporting, you had just that one page, you had to scroll all over the place to find data. This is organized, I think, very efficiently to where all of my information is on the left. I can skip ahead. You know, if I wanted to go down and write my narrative right now, I can do that, but I can keep going through that wizard process where it walks me through what I need to do. So if I hit next section, it takes me to that whole next section. If I wanted to go back to just this piece and keep writing that, you'll see it's on next. So it takes me to address, location. Now I could use the same address that came over from CAD, or I can fill out a different address, doesn't matter. So I get a valid address, shows me on the map where that is. Event information, these fields also are going to be required if your agency say, I need my people to fill this out. If it's not required, they obviously don't have to do it to make that a valid report. I've got domestic violence information, and now that button shows next section. So walking me through this, I can just go to the next section, which is my offense. All of your codes are the exact same. That's pretty similar to what you have in field-based reporting right now. If you change the code in records, if you add anything there, it's available for you over in mobile field reporting. So if I came in and I just started typing in burglary, it's going to find that search while you type information. If I know the IVR code, I could search by that. Or if I know the actual statute, I can just start typing in that information. Here's my burglary, forced entry of a residence. Now, normally it would now change to a lot of required fields. My demo system, I don't have a lot of the validations turned on just so I can show somebody one piece rather than have to write a full report. But it's normally going to tell me I have to do things like attempted or completed. And just like in records, if I come in now and say that that was a completed burglary, it's going to mandate that your people have to have some sort of property. Whether it was stolen, whether it was both stolen and recovered, I have to have some sort of property. Now, if it was just attempted, we stopped them before they did anything, it's not going to require that. So all of the rules that are associated with folders are here for you to write that report. I'm going to leave a few things blank, but it's going to do the same types of things in records. Items like cargo theft. Has anybody had to do a cargo theft report in here? All the time? I was going to say, sometimes people will have like a port where they'll have a shipping facility and they do have to write that, but for the most part, nobody has to do cargo theft, but NIBRS still requires you to come in and say, was that a cargo theft? Everybody has to say no. So now you can go set that to be defaulted to no, so they don't have to worry about it. Or if I don't touch it, our validation rules, the way that they work, trying to make this as easy as possible for the officers and the deputies, it will actually send out no for you. Bias-based crimes, even though bias-based crimes have been, I mean, in today's current climate, they've been on an uptick with what's going on. But for the most part, bias-based crimes are still very infrequent that you have to put that this was actually like a hate crime or a bias-based crime. So by default, it's going to submit it as a warning instead of an error saying, hey, I'm going to submit this as none. 88 is the code, none for that. And then I can go in and change it. So maybe it was a hate crime, I could go do that. So my NIBRS errors, anytime you come up and they hit the validate button, and I should have woken up my server because if I haven't used this in a while, that server goes to sleep on me. But when I hit the validation, it would give me different types of items. Errors I have to fix. So if you tell your people that they have to have a valid report before they can submit it to their supervisor, they have to fix any of those errors. But I would have warnings. So like that cargo theft, the society is a victim, bias-based crimes, it's going to give me warnings and say, if I don't change it, I'm going to submit this for you as this. So just those time savers for your people. Now, any of these validation rules that they get, like right here where it says incident disposition is not entered, cleared exceptionally, not applicable, just some of those NIBR space items, when that validation pops, your people can just click on that. You'll see it took me back to that tab, highlighted that field. So it takes me right back to that section. I can go in and fill that out, take care of whatever I need. So any of these buttons are hyperlinks that walk me right to the report and make it, once again, just as easy as we can for the end user to get that data into the system. All right, so I'm going to go back to my offense section here. Now, once I'm finished with that, I could add a new piece, or when I go down to names and people, I've got my MO, my details, but when I get down to my names and people, I've got James Jones there. Now you see, I've got that under the CFS names, any of the names that I've already run. So maybe I scanned 20 driver's licenses, it was a giant cargo van. All 20 of those names would be there. I could pick which ones I want to use. Or if I start from scratch, I click on link name. And now I can go in and add any of that data. It still grabs information for me and pulls it over. So any of the information that I already have, we're trying to make sure that they don't have to duplicate that effort. So I could clear form, do my own search, or I could keep whatever they had. If I say James Jones, it's pulling back the same information that I have in records. So there's my guy, shows me any of the same alerts. When I hit link, it pulls that name over and automatically fills out any of the information that is tied to his name and highlights it in yellow. So if I go to description, you'll see how it's pulling over anything that I have in yellow. Now, if you give them rights, they can go in and modify this. Maybe his weight's changed, his hair color, whatever it might be, he could update those different things. Add my weapons, suspect vehicle. It's going to once again walk me through that process. Now, I could come over here and add my victim. So I'm just going to say that part is my victim, and I'm going to link a name, say Betsy Ann Williams. There's her name. I can link that particular section. So now on this particular item, I've got my suspect and I have my victim. I can hit next, go to the different sections of that particular person, and then it gets me down to vehicle. So now I could walk through this process, delete anything that I don't want, or I could jump down to, let's say, narrative. My narrative, all of the same code tables that you have in records. So now this is a full word processing application. So if I have a misspelled word, it's going to give me that red underline. If you have anything that is voice to text, you can access that as well. And then if I want to fix any of that, just like any other application, I can go in and change what I want. Or if it's an acronym you use all the time, I could right click on that, add it to my dictionary. Now, if I jump down to attachments, I could add any type of attachment. If I am connected to anything that has a camera, I can go in and grab those items right from the system. And then finally, approval. Now, the approval is also just, I want to hit this again. Field-based reporting, it was out there in field-based reporting. Nobody in records can see it yet. I have to submit it to my supervisor, still in field-based reporting. My supervisor has to go and approve that in field-based reporting. Then once they approve that, it's available for anybody that has rights inside records. This part, as soon as CAD created that skeletal report for me, it was available to anybody that has rights. There is no separate database for mobile field reporting anymore. Now, it caches anything if I lose connectivity, but there's no separate database. So it's using all of my same approvals. If I add a different approval process for, in this instance, my incident, and I change that, it's now changed in mobile field reporting as well. Okay, but it's available for me to use. Now mine, I had the ability to pick who I wanted to send that to. So if I sent that off to my Hexagon supervisor, put in the date, Now I can hit save or save and close. Which save and close grabs that information, sends that data up into records. I could save as a draft at any point in time. So it's telling me that different reports are coming over into the system. And now I have rights to go in and access that. So at any point in time, I can use that, come over to on-call records, log in and fill out any of that data here. So this is on-call records 10. I could work on that report over in on-call records, or I could work on it in mobile field reporting. So even if I just went in and added one name and I hit save, it uploads that to records. I could still work on it here, or I could go work on that in records. Now, one of my favorite parts that I'll run into when I'm doing disconnected work is if I go change something in records and my mobile field reporting is disconnected to where it can't get the update from records. Now, when I go in to access mobile field reporting, it will actually say records has a newer update to that report. Do you want to pull that into your mobile field reporting option of the incident? So it comes over, make sure everything is synced properly. You don't have two different versions of a report out there. It's all going to be the same for that system. Any questions on that part before I get over into a couple other things? All right. So yeah, once again, if I have a lot of different new reports, I could keep working on those reports, or I put myself back on duty and I'm ready to go. Now, if I come back over into records, any of the information that was sent over is going to be available to me in approvals. Or if I come back to mobile field reporting, you'll see here on my approvals, if I zoom in on that, my approval shows me there's 26 unclaimed reports. So I could always come out, access that, claim them and approve them right from here. Or if I go back over into records, the different reports that I have rights to over here, I could come in and do that approval process right from records. Doesn't matter which one your people use, it's accessing the same data.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch on things, from a officer perspective, right? We want to have that workstation that's, MPS, right? Mobile, for public safety is the response side, right? That's the CAD side, right? And then you have your record side. So one of the things from this design, and it's a lot of lessons learned from customers like you guys, where we gathered information and said, okay, I don't want to have two reports, one for FBR and one for records. And I don't want to have two approvals processes. I don't want to have two databases and everything else. So that's why we've consolidated everything else. So basically, the administration side is on the record side. But everything is available on the mobile field reporting. And when you guys upgrade to on-call CAD 10, you'll get this desktop thing. And again, we don't want officers to have to go to records, right? For the most part, officers just want to respond and write their report, right? Your records people will go in and they'll look at everything that they need to, or your case manager, detectives and everything, they'll be on the record side. But from an officer's perspective, I just want to respond to the call, I'm going to write the report. So that's that mobile desktop that they're working on. All right. And that's why we're actively working. When we talk about, tactical roadmaps about making sure that the officer has everything that they need to do to just stay in MFR, mobile field reporting, and not have to go to full-blown records. Does that make sense? A little bit? Okay.
Yes.
Jeff.
Can I jump in and do this, just to tie that together? Those sound like some of the concerns we've heard, but maybe to put Diane on the spot a little bit, or Deputy Chief Favre. Now, are those kind of the main concerns that we've been hearing over the last few months?
At least from a Zendesk perspective, I would say 60% or more from this disconnect between FDR and CR. That's just nature of the beast.
Yep.
And that definitely resolves that issue.
And I'm telling, this is lessons learned, right? And when we were developing this product, we took that information and said, okay, we have to address that, right? And all the feedback that we've gotten, we put this in front of customers and ask questions and especially early on to make sure it's like, okay, we've tweaked it here, tweaked it there, and we'll still have some more tweaking to do, right? Once everybody, and that's when, we talk about the roadmap, what our vision is for that. When we have the summit later in the year that we're get everybody together and feedback, we have roundtables, right? To talk about this stuff, kind of like the fellowship is. We have roundtables that say, hey, what do you think? What have you seen? What do you see the vision for the product? What would you like to see in the product and those types of things? So that's part of my main focus, right? Is to making sure that the product is meeting your needs and that we're on track to continue and to add functionality that you need. So, sorry, James, I had to jump in there. I love that piece.
The second point I was gonna make is,
Yes.
I think we've heard, and maybe this is what I'm saying, but that it takes longer to do a report than the old, maybe it's even comparing it to the paper.
Right, sure.
And the reports we printed out would be 100 pages.
Right.
Are those issues being resolved as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So that process of that wizard, that's the whole reason we created that process, because the time it takes, I even go back to the old days, just using, writing a report and records, which I've been using it for a long time. I could crank a report out pretty quickly. But now when I came over to mobile field reporting, I was able to do it in maybe half the time. So it just that step-by-step process is so much easier for the end user to get that report in. And then to your point, it used to be field-based reporting had a completely separate output for your printed pages. And so every field that was possible in an incident, which is a lot based upon what you choose, was on that printed. And then what, 80–70% are going to be blank, which I don't want to print out a 36-page report when all I needed was 2 pages. This uses the same data that it has in record. So I know that's one of the topics that the team has been working on to create those different output reports. So it's only going to show maybe the fields that I have actual data in them. So maybe there are 36 pages worth of potential fields, but when I hit print, I only get 2 pages because that's all the data that I have.
Okay, great. And final question, and if it's coming later, that's fine, but just in terms of timing, you mentioned on-call 10 is a separate upgrade we've got to do. And I'm interested to know when this is going to all be rolled out and when people are going to actually be able to use it and.
Yeah, the actual time I'll turn over to somebody else, but so when you push this out, it's really that same process. They have to be, if I'm going to have MFR, I have to have on-call records 10. They all point to that same database. So it is really the same install time that you're going to be doing this. Like I always look at myself as kind of a user of the system because in my demo world, we have our own server. So when new updates come out, I'm trying to get them on the schedule to get that upgraded. And then I want the best I can get, just like, all of our customers do. So when we had that process, we had to upgrade to the latest version of records that we had. And then we had to upgrade mobile field reporting at the same time to do that process. So that's how that whole rollout will be for your agency. And then as far as times.
So I can speak to something. So on call, so you will upgrade to on-call records 10 before you get MFR, right? So those first, correct. So the plan that DuPage has had for us is that they want to do the hardware, then do CAD, then do records. Okay. So CAD finishes in June 10th. So we're going to have a little bit of overlap period of we're going to start spinning up your on-call record servers, upgrading your stuff from 3.7 to 10 before that transition, but it's not going to be completely ready for users to experience or even for Dawn's group to really test until after the CAD's gone live and after we've verified that all of that stuff is ready. So I'd say honestly, probably within 3 months, you'll probably have Dawn and his team touching it, and then we'll be off the races.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Can I speak to the 20 points? One of the things that I hear is you talk about it takes too long to type a report. What I found is when I dig into that a little bit, it's usually not, it takes long time to type the report because I don't think that's the case. The reports can be typed out very quickly for someone that's used the system a couple of times. Usually people end up saying there's too many clicks to print the report, which is a completely different thing. And then when you break that down, it's 4 or 5 clicks to print a report, which takes about 3 to 5 seconds. So we're not talking about a lot of time here. So I think it's just important that when someone says something like, it takes too long to type the reports, is ask some more questions about that. Like, what is the problem? Because when you're logged in, when you go through the prompts currently, you're just entering the data. So a lot of times what I found was people aren't talking about how long it takes to type a report. It's how many clicks it is to print the report. It is what I've heard in my experience. So that's just why I think we just want to be careful what, when we're talking about these things, we'll talk about the actual issue and concern. But a lot of times it ends up the amount of clicks to print a report is what I heard. And Don hears that a lot, and he's heard that in some other titles he's had over the years as well. I think that's a common thing from what I'm told is a lot of end users complain about the amount of clicks it is to get things done, but you have to click to get to certain places, so just wanted to speak to that real quick.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do, you know, we do a lot of user experience. We have a whole division, user experience, and one of the things that we work on consistently and constantly is the number of clicks, right? I mean, especially in dispatch world, one extra click is time, right? So we do work on that, and from this perspective, we worked on reducing it and being able to quickly move through it and give options in that regard. You know, from a mobile desktop perspective, you know, you guys will be on CAD and MPS for a while. When you know, upgrade to on-call dispatch, that's when you'll get that desktop that we're talking about. But the data still comes over from CAD, right? And it still will be exactly like James has described. You'll just be working on the MFR side here and MPS until that comes together. Does that make sense? Just want to be clear on that.
Yes, but that's in that same 3-month time frame we're talking about?
No,
Yeah, that's what.
no, right. Yeah.
So you're still gonna be utilizing your, so the CAD upgrade you have is your MR or beta screen. So you're still on CAD 9, you are not on-call dispatch, and you are not on-call, right? So you're still gonna be using MPS the ways that you're using it now. Just the difference is you're gonna have the latest and greatest. Anything that's having defect upgrades, same thing as like you've got a Windows 11 capability. So I mean, technically, you could use 9.4 until the summer sunsets, right? So, but of course, DuPage at one time will go to on-call dispatch. I don't know what that looks like or when that looks like, but your position utilizing this upgrade process to be in a very good starting position because your MFR is going to be ready to go and your on-call records is ready to go. Like, I'm not going to say it's going to be easy peasy like we just switched something over, but it's fairly similar of you look at one database and now you're looking at another database and then you should be getting ready to go.
Yeah, we designed it that way so that you can, I mean, certain customers, they want to go to dispatch first, they want to go to records first when they're upgrading to 10.0, so we've got options in there to be able to do that. It's just, you know, agency preference and things like that. So the great news is, you know, from the records perspective, and I'm not, you know, from the look and feel, the navigation, you know, everything all together essentially, then it'll just be a lot easier.
Yeah, I think so. Just to make that hopefully as clear as possible. So even though I'm on the current CAD and the current mobile system, mobile for public safety, this mobile field reporting is going to replace field-based reporting. And then on-call 10 is replacing the WebRMS 3.7 that you're currently using. So even though you're on the ICAD and APS, you're still upgraded to mobile field reporting and on-call records 10. And then once the CAD parts get upgraded, you know, you still don't have to do anything on the record side. It's just pointing to it, uses the same interface. I mean, everything goes the same way.
I think it's important to note, though, to be clear, there is no plan to move to on-call CAD.
Correct.
So in between now and 2027.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
as
to
you're
your point,
presenting this
you could use it for
today
another
and
10
even
years.
This afternoon, you need to make that clear because your conversation is presenting this like, once you do that, like it's imminent and it's not.
Yeah.
So I think that's.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to I just wanted to show that you can use ICAP for as long as you
You're
want.
gonna give people a false sense of an enhancement coming sooner than later, and it's not even on the books on the CAD side.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Just the pros and cons of that, you know, just that's not something that our members have sought, that we don't necessarily need that.
On the night, so for CAD 9.4, for CAD dispatch, there are certain things in CAD on call today that are not available that are in 9.4. So for a consolidated system this size, to move to on-call CAD today would be a step back. And not to speak for Hexagon, but almost all of their larger customers in the same tier that we are still on 9.4. Tammy?
So we had this conversation with DuPage about 2 years ago, and we made the strategic decision and kind of really coached you to stay on 9.4. We're continuing to enhance 9.4, and it offers you the stability that you need and that DuPage would require. And just quite frankly, at the time of the conversation, we felt it was too risky for DuPage to upgrade to on-call, potentially lose some interfaces or functionality that your users and your agencies across the county have really become their requirement for their jobs. And so, there is a long runway for 9-4 to continue to be sustained, enhanced, updated. And so the risk really didn't outweigh the benefits. And so we charged forward with 9-4. I still believe that was the right call. I still believe it offers you the stability, that your agency needs. I think when that conversation will pivot is when the agencies start talking about wanting to go to the cloud for CAD, or changing the user experience significantly. I think that's when we'll have that conversation, but I think we're years off from that, if I have to guess. Is that fair?
Yeah, I don't ever want to dip too far into CAD. I mean, I can spell it, I guess, but I'm not a CAD expert, so. That process is, Tammy just summed it up perfectly. All right, so for this part of the report, when I have submitted that to records, in the past, field-based reporting, even though I submitted it to my supervisor, records still did not see that. So you'll see that this report is still in progress. It has not been approved. That report is still right there. Now, if I come back over to on-call records, and I'll get into the navigating really quickly, but my modules are up at the top. The modules are all the exact same that you're used to in 3.7. A lot of what you're going to see is really just a facelift on the user interface, making things look the same as the full on-call suite. So you'll see that field-based reporting looks very similar to what I have in records. But if I just come down to a module like my incident module, I have my different search options. So if I came in and I just said, show me everything from this week in my incident module, there's that report. You'll see that 008 incident report, that burglary, forced entry of a residence. If I come back over to mobile field reporting, that's that 008 report right here. So it doesn't matter. I could go finish that in records. Maybe I came into the office. I could now pick that up right on records, or I could keep using mobile field reporting to finish anything that I need. So if, let's say my supervisor kicks it back to me saying, hey, I need to fix something on my narrative or some other item that I had, I could go and update that right in records, or I could update it in field-based reporting. So I really want to just hammer that gone are those days where I had to do everything in field-based reporting up to a certain point, and then it was part of records. This is part of records from the start. So they're both accessing that same database for everything that I'm going to need. Now we can come back to mobile field reporting if you have any other questions, but I wanted to move over into on-call records version 10. So, it's the same, as I said, the same database. That user interface has been changed. One of the biggest parts that was changed going to version 10 was that we did not have a master record for property. So master property was added as one of the central indexes. So now when I come up to my modules up at the top, I've got locations, names, property, and vehicles. So I used to just have location, name, and vehicle. Now property has been added as one of the master property for one of the master records. So it's also a time saver, just using everything that I'm having a true master record instead of potential different updates and creating new records all the time for that item. That's one of the main pieces that has been changed. Other than that, it is really just adding new pieces to make it easier to use for the individuals, and then that look and feel of all of that data. So if I come up to my incident and I just searched on that same record, said, show me everything from this week, there's that 008 report. So just like in 3.7, my links over here are going to show me any of the records. If I clicked on that, it would actually take me to their master records. And when we're talking about those clicks, how many clicks it takes to do something, that's a lot of what you can do now is access information just by putting my cursor over those different records. Now, some of that was available in 3.7, but if I clicked on that name, it would take me to their record, but I have all that data. So now if I just click on that, it takes me right to the incident that I have all that information. Shows Eric Lamb is modifying that current report, but I have all of my data right here. So same type of information on the left. This is the same report that is in mobile field report. Now, just to go over some of the look and feel, when I first log in, I have my inbox. So it's going to show me any of reports that I have. Now, you might also have the system send you a skeletal report that is available here. So you could create that in mobile field reporting, or you could start here. To Gina's point, an officer, all I really need to do everything that is really required of me is through mobile field reporting. I don't have to have anything else open that wants to use this. Now, for me personally, I have mobile field reporting open on one tab, and then I have records open on another tab. I do this, I always look at this from an officer or deputy's point of view, where I only have one screen out in my car. I have limited real estate. Maybe in the office, I have 2 or 3 different monitors, and I can have as many different windows open as I want. But I only have this one screen when I'm out in the car, and when I'm doing a demo, I usually only have this one screen. So I like them open up on each different tab. Now, the only reason I would ever really use records is if I wanted to do some sort of research. I think it's a little easier to just pull up a record and dig down as far as I want to go into different modules. But for most of my work, especially writing my reports, I'm only going to be using mobile field reporting. Okay, so when I come back over into on-call records, so when I first log in, I always am to this inbox, very similar to 3.7. I can create different folders that I want. It's going to show me any of those messages that I need to take access, or that I need to look at. Maybe a report has been assigned to me, or a new skeletal report. I have roll call, group tasks, my approvals, normal approvals that I have rights to go in and work on, stalled rejections, and my case management tasks. So when I first log in, that's the items that I'm going to see. And then in the top left-hand corner, I've got that similar hamburger menu that when I open that up, if I have administrative rights, that's where that's going to be. I also have night mode that I can use here as well. That's user specific, how they like it. So if you like any of the dark modes, which I do, I think it's just easier on the eyes. You can go in and set that up to look and feel how you like it. That little, in the top right-hand corner, they have the envelope icon, which will always take them back to their inbox. So that's just what that's trying to show is your inbox. The history icon, which history is in 3.7, it's just been kind of moved around in on-call 10. When I hit my history, it's showing me anything that I've done in on-call records. So you'll see the only report that I've opened up today is that incident right there. Now, the nice part about that is it follows you as a user. So even if I go log into another system, my history follows me. It's like your browser cache. You can keep this as long as you want. So now if I needed to get back to that report, maybe I've forgotten somebody's name or the report number, I don't have to go search for that again. I can just open up my history, click on that link, and it takes me right back to that report I was working. Now, if I go back to the envelope up at the top, it takes me back to that inbox. And then the modules is going to show me any modules that I have rights to. Now, I also have my GL management pieces. Most people aren't going to see that. Maybe I only have rights to 5 different modules. They're only going to show those modules that I have access to. And it might even be just that I can search and view information. I can't edit, I can't delete, I can't create. It's all based on your tool. So if I go up to one of my master records and I get to the master record section, I'm going to just type in that person we were looking at, James Jones, just because I use him all the time. He has a lot of involvements. So going back to the clicks on how many pieces it takes, once again, if I'm looking for information, I can always put my cursor over those names to give me a breakdown without having to go in and out of the different records. I can quickly see, okay, is that the James Jones I was looking for? Is that the James Jones I was looking for? I can always open this up and then go in and out, but it's easy to find out which one I'm looking for. Now, also, if I'm out in the car and I only have that one screen, you can always take advantage of how modern browsers work. So I could just right click on that and say, open that up in a new tab. So I still have this open, but now up at the top, I have my master name record open right there as well. So you could just take advantage of what these browsers offer you to organize the information you're looking for. I'll keep on this one page. And so when I click on his name, it takes me into his master name record. All of the data is on the left-hand side. They've updated this to where I've got that little purple check showing me which module I'm in, or excuse me, which section of this module. So I'm looking at the main screen of information. I have addresses. Now, a part that I really like is I can just put my cursor over that number and I get that quick info information about that data without having to go in and click these different sections to show me what I'm looking for. So all of that data is available to me. Now, in the top right-hand corner, if I zoom in up there, it shows records linked 442 records. So anytime somebody is involved or something is involved in a report, everything is linked automatically. Very similar to your 3.7 that way, but I have that information closed. So I only open this when I need it. Once again, I'm looking at this from that end user's point of view where I only have my one screen and that takes up real estate. So if I don't need it, I close it. Now, if you like it, you want that open all the time, you can just hit pin and that's going to be up and available to me at all times. So that's just user preference on how you want that to work. But you'll see here that it shows every possible thing this person has done that been linked to that data. Now I can also continue to just put my cursor over that number. So there's 86 different arrests. Pull that over. As long as your public Wi-Fi is working here. There we go. All right, so I've got my 86 different arrests. Now I can always click on this to view them directly, but I can just come down, put my cursor over that number. 3 case managements, he's an active suspect in all 3 of those cases, et cetera, et cetera. But I can also come over and in the top left-hand corner, that individual summary, it's really a wrap sheet. I can grab every one of those involvements and put it on one screen. So if I select individual summary, it takes all of that data up from my false alarms all the way down to, I don't know, whatever's last on my list. So here's on my individual summary. You'll see here that I've got those accidents, false alarms, cases, DUI. And when I get down to a module like my field interviews where he has had other access, so somebody else has been involved, you'll see here that there's his master name record, but I also have things like this Michael Allen Albertson that's been tied to that case. Any vehicles that have been linked to that. This is part of the field interview, excuse me. So if I click on Michael Allen Albertson, it would take me to his master name record. If I clicked on that, that car, it would take me to that master vehicle. Or if I select just the field interview piece, it takes me to that field interview itself. So if I just clicked on that, it takes me to that particular field interview. But now I can go in and find any other information, including those 2 names that are part of this, James Jones and Michael Allen Albertson. So now I can continue to drill down as far as I want to go, or I can hit the back button, take me back into, whatever incident that I'm working on in this case, or you could always go do your history and find a report that way as well. So accessing any of that information, I'm always going to see the search screen, and it's just organized in I think, a cleaner, more efficient way to access that data, and everything is going to be compressed. So if I did want to do that incident search, the first thing that I always see when I go to a module is that search screen. And then I've got my search options. I can open up different ones. Now, it used to be where they were all open at once and I had to scroll down the whole way. They've compressed everything by default now, so I can just pick which one I want to access and open that up. Or I could always come up to the top and hit expand all, which opens all. Any questions on this? I know I was supposed to keep this on a pretty high level. I didn't want to get down into the weeds on a lot of maybe writing reports or doing anything else, but any other pain points that you wanted to look at or view, see how we've handled them? Or just any questions by default? All right. 40 base red roll, ready? Break. Or I'll turn it back over to Tammy.
I think they might like a break better. So,
Yeah.
There's a couple things that I think you've heard throughout the presentation, right? An investment in changing the experience for your officers through improving the user experience. So Kurt, you have firsthand experience using the product regularly. Can you see and feel the difference in terms of the UX, the wizard design, making it easier, things like that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that we've asked for over the years are here, I can see them. And you guys have talked about how you made a lot of these changes from your clients, so the wizard, I think, is one thing that was mentioned several times over the years, and I think that's going to help. Personally, I don't type a lot of reports, I don't do that.
That's what happens when you go up in
Yeah,
the organization,
so I just wanna make sure
right?
everyone understands
Yeah,
that.
we all get it.
I use FPS and OCR on a near daily basis, but I can see though the things that have been asked over the years I've been on the, I can see them on the screens during these demonstrations.
So you mentioned OCR. So Mr. Berlin, I want to come back to something you said at the beginning, the value of all the agencies staying together. And And James at one point was showing the master names and the ability to use master names in records. You know, the value of your records management database is that you have all these agencies that can now pull in and share names. We all know that a criminal doesn't stay within just your jurisdiction. They go to your jurisdiction. And all of that name history is really the power of being able. It don't go to anybody else's, no, but you guys get the point, right? They can cross boundaries, and the power of one system and the integration that you have today is that you're sharing all of that information on those names and vehicles and incidents. Now, all of a sudden, I don't have to call a neighboring agency to say, hey, what do you have on Tammy Heaton? It's right there in the system. A detective can pull it up in just moments. He has access or she has access to all of that information. That's the power of being on one solution. But now that you're extending this to your mobile field reporting and making it more easy for your officers to use, they can start to do some of this investigative power from the use of their cars. Now, Don, a lot of what we've done has made it easier for IT, right? We talked about that shared database. And I think you mentioned 60% of tickets based on just one feedback item that we got. But that's going to relieve a lot of your sort of pain points, right? So we've done some things behind the scenes to make it easier. But I do recognize the real power of it is when your officers see the value and see the benefit of how much easier it is to write reports. But never forget the value of all that data coming together and what being on that shared consolidation really looks like. Back to your point, the importance of us all staying together. All right, that wraps up our demonstration for records management and MFR. I do want to let some of you who may not know, we have had the opportunity over the last month or so through Anthony's direction and his team helping us. We have been doing virtual demos for your users. And so we have been able to reach about 120-ish users who have participated in our virtual demos. So while this afternoon is designed for more end users to come in, I want you to know that you've had users participate in our virtual presentations, and they have had amazing feedback. The interesting area of feedback was around NIBRs. So your users, that's really their area of concern, and you saw the enhancements there. We didn't dive into that a lot because that really is on your end users and their some of their pain points, but I expect we'll hear more of that, and they're going to get to see the real power of NIBRs and us going right to those issues within the product before they submit. All right, I want to open up the floor for questions. I see you talk, so what is it? Yeah.
85-inch screen TV.
Yep.
Looks like I'm having trouble seeing it, but maybe I'm just old and blind. What's that gonna look like on a 15 or 16-inch tablet
Yeah.
in the car? What's it look like? Because it seems like it's really got a lot of busy stuff going on up there as opposed to FBR looks like.
Okay, so I want to comment to one thing you said. You're not old and can't see, because neither could I, and I'm right there.
Yeah.
So I'm old too, but I'm not going to use color. So yeah, that's a great question. I think that's really for Gina to talk about the UX and why it's designed the way. And you're right, it does look smaller from there. So Gina, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, and so he's optimizing this for a presentation in a big room like this, trying to get as much information, but the real resolution that you'll have in the car is smaller, and it fits there, right? From that perspective, okay, and it looks less busy from, from that.
24 by 867, I think is the
Yeah,
default.
right. So it actually comes together, and is more user friendly from that perspective. This is just him,
And you can always zoom in the browser like I just did right there. So
Right.
same application, I could just have everything be a little larger. Now, I carry around this gigantic laptop. Everybody makes fun of me for it, but it also allows me to have more things on the screen. So maybe I'm default to right there or right there, but another user could say, well, I want to have that, much larger, easier for me to see on that page.
Yeah, and here's the thing, we know that that's one of the things, we know that's gonna be using the car on a smaller screen, so that's what it's designed for, right? To be able to navigate that with the touch screen and everything else to be able to quickly, get to what you need to, so. That answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So easier to see on a Panasonic textbook.
Yeah. Yes.
Or whatever.
Yes.
Just it's maximized a little bit better than on these 85-inch screens that we
Yes,
don't have.
exactly.
You put it in your back seat, big 85-inch screen. And Ken, I just wanted to touch on one last thing really quickly, just because I have been involved actually with DuPage County in the previous system we had before Integraph. I've seen a lot of systems come through and be accessed. It used to be in the olden days where when I first started back in 1999, 2000, you were kind of a CAD vendor, you were a records vendor, jail vendor. Sometimes they did everything. You were the whole suite. And I feel to this point where we are with technology nowadays, I feel like we are more of an integrator sometimes than we are just a CAD and records system. So all of the interfaces that you have created right now with your current CAD records, the mobile pieces, all of those interfaces are available when we put you to these new systems. So if there are going to be any changes, they're going to be very slight. So all that integration, which I always think of as time savers. If I have an integration, I don't have to go duplicate work somewhere else, or information's coming right to me that I don't have to go search for. So when you think about all of the integration that has gone through to this point to get your system where you have it right now, all of that data is still available when we go to mobile field reporting and on-call records 10. So I just wanted to make that perfectly clear that you don't lose any of that type of access or non-duplication of data.
All right, the last point I want to make, I'm gonna ask Kurt and Don to help me with this conversation, but not only do you lose information, but this is really a good opportunity as you upgrade to RMS 10.0 and mobile field reporting for us to look at how you're doing things today and make improvements on those areas. One area in particular that we've gotten feedback on is the reports. And I know that, and Don, Kurt, I'll ask you to speak on the initiative that you're putting together to make certain that feedback from your users is heard and that you're making improvements on the report. So without putting you on the spot, would you mind sharing a little bit about that initiative and what you're doing to make improvements there for the agencies?
I'll take it and back and polish up what I'm about to say. We formed a subcommittee. All agencies are invited to that. We've had a decent amount of participation in that, and that's been going on for several months. And state attorney's office is involved in that as well. And we've made some significant changes to the report output data sheets with the input from all the agencies that are participating. So the reports are going to be more concise. They're going to be consistent against any type of output report that you do. Right now, there's some differences between them. They're all going to look the same, but it's going to be very clear from the top what it is. Incident report, supplemental report. We've consolidated a lot of reports. There's a lot of, there's a lot of information that you can put into the system, but that also leads to a lot of redundancies across different reports. So we've reduced a lot of the redundancies by consolidating reports. So you're going to have a lot more concise information. We've made it visually appealing, where we've lined up a lot of the fields that are printed to make it clear. And the decisions are being made by consensus with everyone that's sitting in the room. So the process, in my opinion, Don, speak up, anyone else, and people on the teams, I think it's been very effective. We did a very similar thing with the NIBRS project, and that was all user input coming in. And that process has served us well for those two projects. So, Don, did I miss anything? Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a project that I'm actually excited about. Before I came to DuPage County, this is exactly what I was doing for 2 years, right before coming here, designing reports like this. This is a ton of direct feedback from users. These things, we stripped them down and just started from scratch. And so there's been great feedback, and like Kurt said, they're really streamlined and they're much more efficient. They're much more readable. I think it's going to be a huge step toward a better user experience.
Great. And I think as leaders, it's important for you to know that your agencies and the leadership within your organization are using this opportunity to upgrade, not just as an opportunity to, make things look nicer, prettier, or more efficient, but really the output and listening to feedback and using that as an opportunity to introduce other efficiencies within the organization. So there's a lot of great stuff coming. Some of it's going to be on the back end that you can't see, and I mentioned that earlier. Some of it's going to be the user experience, and some of it's going to be, as they just mentioned and shared, the output of reports and easier visibility that you'll have to those. So that wraps up what we had prepared. Again, this afternoon, we're going to be with your end users. We're going to deep dive and really get into the product, but I'd like to open the floor for any questions or closing comments.
Questions? We appreciate it very much.
All right.
Thanks for the demonstration.
Thank you.
Move on to the order of old business, the old business. New business? Motion to adjourn?
Hello.
All right? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.